Welcome again to another episode of the Dialed and Driven Hockey Mentality Podcast. My name's Chris Palmer. I'm a mental performance coach for hockey players throughout North America and Europe. I'm sitting across from Jeff Lerg, former professional hockey player. And of course, we have Natalie here, who's been part of our team from the start. Today, we're going to talk about things that are useful like always. We're going to talk about managing the chaos, because so much of life is about finding a way to deal with the things that can happen at any moment. But before we go into that, let's go to Natalie and take your questions.
Yeah, so I'm Natalie and I'm also the producer of this podcast. But first, we are going to get into our question and answers that you guys ask us. And the first question today reads, I practice great, but I struggle to perform in games. How do I fix that?
Well, I think it goes back to something we've been saying for weeks, is just go and have fun. You know, nothing drives me more nuts than looking at kids when they're training or when they're playing in a game and they just look so anxious and nervous. There's no relaxed element. So remind yourself, go have fun is the best way. But of course, you have to trust your work you put into. You know, so while you're training and working hard, find that element of fun and then just remind yourself that that's how you're going to be your best.
This is one of the biggest things I deal with is people are two different people. And it's because truly those efforts are two different efforts. You've heard plenty of people talk about it's almost impossible to treat your practices exactly like a game. Saban talked about this all the time. If you're practicing at 90% and you expect to be 100% in a game, it's a wish. You have to find a way first to make the practices as close to game simulations as possible. And the other part is, if you're not practicing, if you're not playing as well as when you practiced, it's part of that, but it's usually also part of some kind of block. You're worried about a result instead of worrying about focusing on doing your job, staying in your process. That's the answer. It's hard to do, but that really is the difference. You're always worried about outcomes, and if you're worried about outcomes, you're not putting all your focus on the game.
Yeah, awesome. I would say you can maybe start in mini games in practice, and hopefully it'll translate into slowly the games as you keep practicing, having fun and stuff like that. So our second question is, are there mentality traits that coaches notice even before skills or stats?
Yeah, I mean, good quality coaches and scouts, they notice the things, the little things that go a long way, the preparation, just the ability to read the play. In hockey terms, it's hockey IQ. I mean, more now than ever, the skill level is an all-time high, but the hockey IQ is at an all-time low. You know, there's just so many skill training sessions available that everyone knows how to stick handle through tires and cones. Okay, but who can read and react to play. So I know from having a lot of close friends within the college and pro game that are scouts and coaches, hockey IQ and the ability to be a step ahead is number one skill that can take you a long way.
Yeah. I'd say resetting from something going wrong. I mean, everybody looks at that. I've known guys who got to national camp, not national camp, but the tryout camp for NTDP, and they're doing great, but their ability to reset is the difference. And there are guys who were sent home because they couldn't reset quick enough after a goal.
Yeah, totally. Well, that is our question and answers of the week. So if you would like to leave a question for us, please visit our website. It is in the show notes. But now we're going to go into our Dialed and Athlete of the Week. Jeff, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this week. I
have one this week. Last week, no one lived up to the standard, but I have AJ Edelman. You know who he is?
Not a clue.
You're going to know him soon. He is the pilot of the first ever Israeli bobsled team.
I didn't know that their pilots referred to as pilots.
Yeah, he's a pilot. That means they steer. They're the one making the tough calls. They design the track or the course that the teammates are going to go. He's been the leader. And AJ is interesting. He was in the skeleton, another crazy Olympic event that I would not ever try.
Solo bobsled?
Solo. It's like a solo that you're just wild. You're going head first down the ice luge. So in 2018, he competed. He was done with the Israeli national team skeleton. So in 2018, he was on their Israeli Olympic team. Skeleton, I think he had a kind of a sour finish to the sport. He got in an argument, I think, with an Olympic official or something like that. So he went on this mission to get the bobsled team qualified. So in 2022, they were the last team out. They just missed it by like 0.1 second. So they kind of had the heartbreak. But he stayed on this mission and he got them qualified. They were the last team in and they are competing now. And he led the charge for this nation to qualify. So it takes you back to at least my childhood, the Cool Runnings Jamaican bobsled team. So Israel is competing in this Olympics. We'll see how they do.
Very cool. Yeah, well, going into my athlete, many of you should know her. Her name is Lindsey Vonn. She is an Olympic skier, downhill skier, and recently we unfortunately saw her crash at the qualifiers.
It was like the last major Olympic race.
Yeah, so she crashed.
There was the last major race that they all compete in before the Olympics. It was in Switzerland.
Yeah, and the conditions were apparently terrible, and she ruptured her ACL. And if you didn't know prior, Lindsey Vonn ended up retiring in 2019 because of constant knee pain and just knee injuries. And not because she didn't love the sport, not because she didn't want to compete, but because she just couldn't train with the constant pain that she was in. 2024, she ended up getting a reconstruction surgery on her knees, and that brought her back to be able to train, and then ended up making her qualify for this Olympics. But she is somebody that is very intense. She has been skiing since she was 2 or 3 years old, loves the sport, lives, breathes skiing. And she's famously known for never thinking about crashing. She just thinks about winning, which is something that is a very good mentality.
Well, you just look at her. And now I follow her. I wasn't following her before on social, but now I see her and I'm like, dude, this girl, like, she is intense. Like, just seeing her message after she tore her ACL, and like now she's, getting ready to still compete in the Olympics. Like, she has a torn ACL, but she just was doing all these training and just showing how she could still compete, and her muscles are still firing in all cylinders. And there's enough there. Of course, the stability is everyone, that's going to be the question mark, but she just says, I'm not even acknowledging it. I'm doing it. I'm going to be all in. And, she's leaving no stone unturned.
Right. Yeah, exactly. No stone unturned. She's ready to go compete. And I'm wishing her the best. And I can't wait to see what she's able to do, especially with her. I don't want to call it a setback, but it's definitely
it's
a little
major setback. Let's
not
be honest.
for her.
No, not for her.
I don't know how anybody makes it in that sport. It just seems crazy. It seems like if you want to pick the worst possible thing you could do to your body, it's that. Like, I would expect everybody's knees to be blown out. It's like, I don't know, it's like wrestling gorillas. It just seems so unnatural. And it's just crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never known anyone to do that, but
it's so violent on your body. I can't believe anybody survives more than a season. It's crazy.
Yeah. I
mean, she's 41.
She's 40.
Right? Ish. Yeah, she's somewhere in that range. She's in her 40s, and she, think about how many surgeries and how many setbacks and how many crashes. Like, it's wild. But that's why I love the Olympics, because you just see these fearless athletes who they're not these pros that are kind of prima donnas having maintenance days and days off. They're just all in for these 2 weeks. So she's all in.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that concludes our Dialed In Athletes of the Week.
And for more info on our Dialed In Athletes, we have it in our newsletter. So you can find that on our website, dialedindrivenmentality.com. You can sign up. I go into more detail on some more of the backstory of many of these athletes we discuss, and just so many things to learn from. So thanks, Nat, for coming on.
And now a message from our sponsor.
As a parent, you can see it. Your athlete has talent. They work hard. But one mistake can spiral into frustration, doubt, or shutting down completely. This is Jeff Lerg, host of this very podcast. Many young athletes are never taught how to handle pressure, failure, or expectations. Yet we expect them to perform in high-stress environments every weekend. That's why we created the Dialed In Driven Success Formula. It's a guided mentality program that helps athletes build confidence, emotional control, and personal responsibility. Skills that matter far beyond sports. This isn't about pumping kids up. It's about giving them tools they can use in competition, in school, and in life. If you want to help your athlete develop real mental strength, not just short-term motivation, visit dialedindrivenmentality.com to learn more. Strong athletes are built physically. Resilient athletes are built mentally.
So we opened talking about this idea of chaos. And if you can find a way to really see things for as they are, you have a chance to do great. But if you're constantly surprised by something that's a reality, you're stuck. And I think whether you're a youth hockey player, or whether you're somebody who's off to the Olympics, whatever that thing is, if you look at life for what it is, you have a chance to make peace with that. So right now, if you look at the youth hockey landscape, you've got kids working so hard to go for this big dream. But undoubtedly, something happens that's completely surprising, and then it's completely distracting. Whether it's an injury, whether it's not getting played, whatever that thing is, life is full of these things that feel chaotic. They feel like at any moment, anything could happen. And that's really what today's about. We're trying to tell you guys that you have a chance, when you really look at life, to realize that you can go out with the best intentions and work as hard as you want, and you can't control the outside things. There's so many things you can't control. And you could be really upset about that, and maybe you should. I mean, even you, Jeff, you had 2 ACLs go bad. I mean, I don't think there's a person I know who is more healthy, more balanced, more driven to do things, and still awful things happen. It's an example of the fact that things are chaotic. And if you can make peace with that idea, you have a chance to not see it as something that's so distracting or, oh gosh, this happened. I had a friend of mine a long time ago. He helped me. I used to flip houses, and we were doing plumbing one day. And we went to Home Depot 4 times that day. And I was like, God, it seems ridiculous. And every time I'd see, like, I can't believe it. And he'd always say, I believe it. And he kept saying that. And I didn't really understand what he meant. But he expects things to go wrong, so it doesn't bug him. Okay, we're missing this. We got to go back. We're missing this. We got to go back. He was happy because he could see the fact that things are just going to get in the way. And it's a great way to look at life. So, Jeff, you had something you wanted to talk about that completely ties to this idea. You know an athlete who everybody knows.
Well, we just chatted on Lindsey Vonn. You know, I mentioned how she's in her 40s, tons of years of experience. So now she has this catastrophic injury, and she still maintains her same process, and I'm going to do it, and this mentality of just, I'm going to find a way. But this past week, I was kind of getting caught up on some of the NHL storylines and stat lines. Haven't been as avid of a fan this year. And it just, there's obviously a lot of new names, newcomers that are doing well, new teams that are back. And really, the Pittsburgh Penguins and their captain, Sidney Crosby, I mean, he's been just the exemplary NHL hockey player that you could ever be. You know, for 20 years, this guy has been over a point per game. Ever since he stepped foot in the league, he's had over a point per game for 20 straight years. It's amazing. But the reason I'm bringing him up is that, you know, there's been some ups and downs. Like he's won 3 Stanley Cups. They had this long stretch of being just really good, led by him and others. And then the team had to kind of not implode, but they had to kind of have a little wholesale of players going out because they just couldn't afford everyone. You know, so some key players that have passed through the years, and he kind of still maintained, like, you know, he stays under his market value every year. He just kind of keeps coming back. Could be making way more elsewhere, but he just is staying loyal to the program that brought him in. And he's kind of helped rebuild this Penguin team to be right back into playoff contention. It's been 4 years where they've been really non-existent come the postseason, and they're right back in the hunt for it. So I bring that up because it's not a flashy storyline, but you talk about managing the chaos. Like, he's had to deal with teammates that have left. Of course, the longer he's played, he's had to deal with injuries. He had some severe concussion issues way back. He had to come back from. He's had to change the way he's trained. He's had to change some of the ways he's prepared for games because now he's gotten older. But he's done it all. So he's really just exemplified how to manage chaos through the course of a long career. But he's sustained the highest level of success. I mean, 20 straight years over a point a game. It's amazing.
It is. He seems like such a good guy too. Like he has such a calm sense of mission to him. I remember when he first came out, people gave him a really hard time. I mean, like, he was this young phenom guy, and being a young phenom guy is threatening. You have all these other guys who kind of have their world set up, and there were some guys who were jealous and they went after him. It was really, really hard. And he managed that as a young kid, which is crazy. This old term called Murphy's Law is such an interesting thing to me. The idea is that Murphy believed that if anything awful can happen, it will. Like, seriously, there's this idea that if anything bad can happen, it will. And I think that's maybe too pessimistic. But Murphy's credited as being an optimist because he sees the good despite the fact that things are awful. In fact, the fact that things are awful from time to time and having peace with that allows you to not be so shaken up when that happens. And whether you look at Crosby finding a way as a kid in the beginning to make it work when he has people trying to knock his head off, or even Bedard. I mean, I think people expected Bedard to get some crap when he came in the league, but I don't think anybody expected his jaw to be broken. So there's just things that happen. So I just love the kids trying to find their way here. Somewhere between the early ice days when it's fun and you're a penguin on the ice and, oh, you did great, let's go for ice cream and pizza after those early joyous days. Somewhere between then and somewhere around adolescence, things become so serious. And you can be really upset because things changed. There's this book called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a big corporate America book on dealing with change. And the whole idea is that you can imagine these mice who were sitting and they had cheese every single day in this one spot. They were at a restaurant or whatever, and they always could have it happen. They had these mice that were at a restaurant, and the cheese would be there every day, and they'd go to the same spot. It would always be there. And then one day the cheese stopped showing up for whatever reason. And you had some mice that were fine. They went off and they found cheese somewhere else. But you had some mice who stayed there go, I can't believe it. Cheese isn't here. It isn't here. And they made themselves miserable because they couldn't look at reality. And it's one of the most famous books in corporate America because it helps people realize that everything changes all the time. And I really think that's the thing, just finding some way to make peace with the fact that you can have everything going in one direction and then just get whacked in the head. It's how life goes. You make peace with that, great things can happen.
Yeah, one last note on Crosby on that too, just with how much change he's had over the course of his career. I was actually fortunate enough I played against him as a teenager when he was everyone knew he was going to be this amazing NHLer. Like you could see it. I played against him. I think we were 16 years old and he was it. You know, I think we beat him 6-4 and he had 4 assists. Like he was dynamite. I think my claim to fame is that I poke checked him on a breakaway, but that's, I don't think he's going to remember that if I ever ran into him. But it was an exciting game to play in because we knew that we were playing against Crosby and we were number 1 in the country. They were number 2 and we got out on top. So that's my one glory days moment as a teenager against him. But no, he's so intriguing to learn from because he's really managed all the change in his career. He discussed how he takes shorter naps now that he's older, doesn't need to have this longer routine during the day. He doesn't skate for pregame skates a lot. He does his own little stick handling thing. He just maximizes his energy exertion for when it matters most. And I love it that he still loves the game so much. He doesn't even need caffeine on game day. He just says the adrenaline of playing in the NHL is what gets him through. So there's so many cool things to learn from because just being around youth athletes daily, you can see that he defies what many people think is needed for success. Like many people think they need this amazing skills coach just to help them get ready for a game. Oh, I didn't get my private lesson this week, so I won't be ready for the game. Or they need all these special things to get ready. And he just exemplifies the fact of like, hey, he lived it, he's learned it, but he trusts his process. Like he's known to just trust all the hard work he's done. Like he still takes pride in winning the small battles in every practice. You know, he's a 20-year vet and he puts all of his energy and effort and just take care of these little things in practice, like that involve energy and effort. And that's it. And that's really where I see the modern day athlete can still learn from someone like him. You know, he doesn't put all the bells and whistles on. He doesn't have to pick the puck up and scoop it around the net and spend all of his time on that. He just does the little things well at the absolute highest level. And that's how he handles change.
Yeah. It's so interesting. There is this idea that we should be doing more and more and more. And I mentioned in previous podcasts that I had a friend in high school who was an amazing runner, and he decided to get better. He would give everything he could 3 days in a row. He ran all out for 9 miles, 3 different days in a row. And by day 3, as you can imagine, the wheels came off, right? His body didn't get enough recovery. But you mentioned this interesting thing, and I've talked about this a lot with people. People freaked out because they were sick the night before a game, or they'll talk to me about being worried because they didn't get enough sleep. And the truth is, every single person has a capacity far beyond wherever your physiology is that day. Now, maybe your physiology's off. You're a little bit sick. You had a runny nose or didn't get enough sleep. But that kind of chaotic thing, right? Anything can happen anytime. That thing can either become the death of you that day, and oh my gosh, I'm not going to do good. Or you can realize that your brain is so much more powerful than your body. Not when you're older, but when you're younger, your brain is infinitely more powerful than your body. And you can push your body to do things that you think are not possible. And you've got situations where people have not gotten good sleep the night before, maybe 2 hours. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. For the performances, if you find a way just to be dialed in, as we talk about all the time, and realize that the chaos of things, the disappointment of things, I didn't get the meal I wanted, we had to eat at a gas station because our bus broke down, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because your ability to push yourself through is always going to be stronger than whatever bad thing happened that got in the way.
Yeah, and you have to develop this cerebral approach, though, and really understand, like we talked about it last week, like what are you trying to accomplish? And then what's the recipe to accomplish that? And it's all going to come back to, what do you do each day? Right? What are your actions every day? What are your standards that you're living up to every day? And the more right you do, or the more consistency you have in bringing your best effort, best attitude, and best focus level, the better off you're going to be when the change comes. And this past week in particular, I've dealt with a few goalies, these goalies that are probably skating a little bit too much. They're wearing down their bodies. They're coming off injuries and surgeries, and they've been having a tough time changing the routine. They're so used to saying, oh, this is what made me successful when, I was healthy. Well, now you're not healthy. You can't have that same level of certain areas that you're stressing on your body or your mind. So you have to readjust. You have to adapt and manage the chaos, and that's been the message here. What are you really trying to accomplish? Okay, it's to peak for the weekend. It's to peak for the games. The game time when puck drops. So let's look at the recipe about what it takes to get there. And wearing your whole body down on Wednesday and Thursday isn't going to get you ready for the Friday game. So you have to have that realization of, what's the end goal I'm trying to accomplish, and then take it back from there and put a realistic game plan together. Like, what can I do to get my body to be at 100%? And I struggle with that as an athlete. When I grew up, I was just so focused on always giving my best. And then once injuries or setbacks came, I had to learn that skill to readjust and deal with all that chaos.
This is something very few people talk about, this mental side of the game. It's kind of like if you skinned your knee as a kid, on a bike, you skin your knee. Well, if you don't leave that knee alone a little bit, it's not going to scab up. It's not going to heal. I don't know how many kids pick their scabs and stuff like that. It's not going to heal. It's not going to heal. Well, in the same way, if you look at some of the disappointments that happen, like let's say you didn't get ice time, let's say you had some ache somewhere, pulling back is actually the thing that helps you move forward. And if you could become comfortable with the idea that when you're out of the game, in the game, there's no time. You just have to push yourself through. There's no time for feeling bad about anything. But outside of the game, if you aren't feeling so well and you're really bummed out, your friend this time of year got a gig at this team and the guy isn't as good as you, and you're like, why didn't I get this? It's okay to pull back mentally. It's okay to say, this really bothers me. It's okay to talk to your parents or your friends and get that crap off your chest. But at some point, feeling awful for feeling awful is not really productive. Sometimes it's good to feel awful for a little bit and work through that and get that energy out of your system. And then it actually gives you more energy to come back. It's kind of like exactly that skinning your knee thing. Being less active for a little bit is the best way to heal that knee. It isn't just to keep going and fighting through as if nothing's wrong. There's another thing I want to mention that's just kind of an odd thing you wouldn't think about. Emmy and Vadym. These guys,
ice dancers that you train.
Yeah, they're at the Olympics now, and they've wanted this their whole lives. And they're on this world's biggest stage. Things are fantastic, and they've earned it. They've worked, I don't know how many hours and how many years through all kinds of things. And we talked about Vadym having his brothers in the military in Ukraine. His dad's 5 miles off the front lines, and his mom's here with him, and they're trying to figure all this out. It's a full family effort here. You've got Emilea, who's trying to figure out how to make all of this work and balance things together. And she came from a background that wasn't couples ice dance. And she did this amazingly heroic change to do this. It's a lot different coordinating with another human. So in all of that, here they are on the stage and things are great. But now they have sponsors on top of them. They have everybody who wants a piece of them now. They've got podcast after podcast. They're sitting in a room 7-8 hours a day, radio shows, all these morning shows. And when you think about that, that's something you really couldn't have factored in. And it feels like the chaos of life. And it's great, but you're only a human and you can only talk so long, and it takes energy. And one of the things they've had to do was figure out how to balance that out and still get the rest they need and the balance they want to have in their lives, because they're there to perform, but the world is kind of requiring of them that they be engaged and do all this kind of stuff, which does take an energy. So even there, even at the top, when things are great, there's a chaos, there's a surprise, anything can happen anytime-ness about life. And being adaptable to that is what's helping them. Being adaptable to those changes is what's going to be helpful to you.
So do you think with all this, you think they're going to try to connect with you then to just try to deal with this, managing the chaos? Obviously, they're trying to go accomplish their goal of doing well and performing their best in the Olympics. So yeah, have they contacted you, or what's going on with that?
It's usually right before the competition is usually when we talk, because right now they're doing a lot of run-throughs, they're doing these practices, and they feel great in that. And they're also really trained at this. We've been working together for years, and these guys do a great job of resetting. They do a great job of trying to keep their focus. But there's always this time right before things happen where everybody can reset their heads. And sometimes it's just talking to make sure that they're on the right track. But they are, and they've practiced this for years. They're incredibly mentally strong. They're going to be amazing.
That's amazing. So they got to get locked in, and that's awesome. You're a piece of their recipe, right? I kind of mentioned that earlier. Like, what's your end goal, and what's the recipe to get there? And for them, you becoming part of their routine and their regimen to work through things has been awesome to see. And I'm super pumped for you that you've been able to help them get there, because I know that that's like an awesome feeling as a coach that you're a piece of helping them. So that's super cool. And with that, there's so many things, and that's why this story in particular, like they may not have had a mental performance coach. They might have had different training regimens and routines, but they had to kind of live and learn and grow and see what it's gonna take to help them get there. So super cool that you're a part of that. And I had another little story I wanted to bring up from this past week, in particular, again, back to our youth athletes, that I can see when athletes don't have this cerebral awareness on that bigger picture, kind of how to deal with all the chaos, especially during the long hockey season. I want to talk specifically on the hockey season. And here in Metro Detroit, I mean, it's February, it's the middle of winter. It can feel like the dog days of the season at times, because it's kind of this period of time where that the important time is coming up in the coming weeks, but you've been at it since, August as a team, and even before that, training. And you can see that athletes need constant reminders on finding ways to stay consistent with what they're trying to accomplish. And that's why I wanted to bring up Crosby today. I mean, I bring him up as 20 years of experience of being a point of game player, and it's all process oriented. And so just the athletes that I've been around this time of year a bit, you can see some of that sense of fun and excitement. It can be easily lost if things aren't going as well for you during this time. So more or less, I guess, just a reminder that find that reason, find that why, find that ability, whatever that is for you. And maybe you have a little bit more thoughts in closing on what else can be done to help manage, whether it's the chaos of distractions or just the long training regimen that it takes to finally get to where you want to get to.
Yeah. Well, I think just look at your lives. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see me looking at the camera talking to you. I'm talking to you because I sympathize with how hard it is to be a kid growing up into an adult. It's so hard because when you're really, really little, everything's easy, right? And you get loving parents who try to make things easier for you. And then little by little, you see these little things that aren't so easy. Things that were so easy to succeed before, not like that now. And you have to work harder sometimes. You got to be adapting and overcoming. There's all these things that are part of the adult world. And some of you guys are thrust into this at 11 years old, 12 years old, and it feels like too much. So I want you to know, I sympathize with that. I hate that, but I also love it, because if you can find a way to really see life for what it is, if you can find a way to truly see the fact that there's this amazing joy and possibility and connection and achievement, all these things that we know for years from research make people happy. We talked before about this idea of PERMA, this idea that we love positive emotions, anything that creates them. We love being engaged in things we truly care about. We love relationships with people we care about. We love having meaningful experiences, and we love achieving things that we care about. You have a chance to have all those things, but so many people don't ever get to enjoy most of those things because they're so shocked and bothered by the fact that the wheels can come off at any moment. And they're going to come off, and sometimes it'll be something you least expect. But if you can find a way to handle that and keep going, everything can change. If you look at Bedard, I love the fact that Bedard kept going. He's a monster, but he's a monster because he had to lick his wounds and figure it out. I love the fact that Crosby, he still loves this game so much that anything bad that happens, he can just handle it. And I love that Emmy and Vadym now out at the Olympics, even though they have these weird things happening, there are times that something happens with your skate blade, you lose an edge and you fall. And you could sit on the ice and feel like it's all over. But they get up and they get right back in and they reset and they talk to each other on the ice. And it's just a beautiful way of expressing this idea that you can see the world for this thing that has barriers everywhere. And you can see yourself as a person who gets past those barriers. This is possible and it's real. Accept the chaos of life and your life changes. Be upset by it all the time and be surprised by it. And you've never learned the one thing that will help you get toward the things you really want.
Yeah, it's awesome, Chris. I love it. And to all of our listeners, appreciate you listening, subscribing, and leaving any reviews. It's going to help us keep going. As you can see, for those watching, we've invested into providing a new studio here for those that watch on YouTube. And we just love being here every week. We love hearing the stories of those that have reached out and let us know that, hey, we love that last episode. It really helped them through certain scenarios. So if you want more content, we have our free newsletter that you can find on our website. Our website's in the show notes. And just a reminder, stay dialed and driven on your goals, as that's the only way to accomplish success.
And that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. But most importantly, we'd love for you to sign up to our free newsletter. Visit our website, dialedandrivenmentality.com. We look forward to chatting again next week.
One of the best names you will ever see keeps this game alive.
Chris Palmer again, the Hockey Mentality Podcast, Dialed and Driven.